For your eye health.
Right. Okay, we should be live. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello. There we go. Sorry, I'm just clicking into Instagram. There we go.
Someone.
Okay. It's Thursday. Time for Kim and Kat Live. One topic, two perspectives, just for funsies. If you do end up seeing this on the replay, drop a comment. Let us know you were here. We're just coming out, we're hanging, we're chatting over our morning coffee. So I thought it'd be super fun today to talk about AI because it's really interesting. So for our Profitable Speaker Bootcamp, we had put it on the shelf for a couple years and we hadn't done it, and now we're bringing it back. But things have changed a lot in business because of AI. Especially as someone who uses speaking to grow their business. And I think because of AI, there are a lot of things that are much easier and faster. So I thought it would be fun to talk about that because I know not everyone is using it in their business yet. And I think more people should, because it's, really gives you back your time in terms of like, but also your brain capacity, because you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
think so hard. So what do you think, Kat?
I was just looking up. So I saw a statistic somewhere that by 2027 or something, 44% of jobs are going to be replaced by AI.
Crazy.
And and why I want to mention that is like you really got to think that unless you adopt it in your business and in your life, you're going to become obsolete. Like think about the internet and how internet just swept the world, right? And all of a sudden, if you weren't online, if you didn't have internet, if you didn't have a website, it's like you didn't even exist anymore. So it's
Mm-hmm.
going to start moving in the same direction where as a business owner, especially if you're not using and utilizing AI in some way, right, is you essentially become outdated. You become a dinosaur. And there are people who will simply be able to have a speed of implementation that's higher than yours.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time you are launching a course, a product, an event, anything really in your business, someone else already has done it 20 times.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really encourage our clients and just friends, right, to start playing with it and start really dipping your toes into what can AI do. And it's actually quite simple. I know a lot of people are like, where do I start with AI? And really, you don't have to start complicated with automations and complex AI technologies and machine learning and things like that. Start by simply thinking, what is it that you already do in day to day? And go over to ChatGPT. That's the most popular and easily accessible one. And just type it out and ask it, how can AI help you with some of those tasks?
Mm-hmm.
And I know for me, a lot of those tasks are really just freeing up the brain capacity, right? So, like, what are some of the post ideas? What are some of the email ideas, content ideas? How can I tell the story better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, even as simple as that. As a speaker, you should have catalog of stories if you don't yet. I know we do. We have a spreadsheet actually of stories. So with a catalog of stories, I pretty consistently revisit those stories, first of all, to refresh my memory. Because if I haven't told one story for 2 years, I probably don't even remember what I was saying, right? But second of all, to see how I can make it even better. And I think the development of the storytelling is very underrated. People think that it's just telling a story when in reality it's a skill set just like any other skill set. You got to put in the hours to make it better and develop it yourself. And so I really enjoy going back to our talks, stories, presentations, trainings, and seeing any opportunities for future development. Now with AI, it's easier than ever. I can actually
Mm-hmm.
train my AI because you can do that. You train it as your own with your own brain and how you work, right? So I trained my AI to actually look for those opportunities and help me find them. And then I go in and I just make it better.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's what I was doing yesterday, actually, as I was prepping for our upcoming boot camp, is like going back to my story library and asking AI to help me pull out potential themes, right? Because you can
Mhm.
frame the same story in different ways to kind of hone in on different points that you want to get across to people. There should always be a so what in your story. And so I was asking it to help me find the different so what's that I could be using for the same story. How could I take the same story and frame it in different ways to get my point across? I could use the same story in different types of teaching. And so I thought it was really cool. And it gave me a couple like where I was like, oh, like I never thought of framing it that way. Right. Like it completely changes how I could use that story instead of just telling a story. Cause that's the thing is as a business owner, just telling a story is not enough. That's something you do sitting around the kitchen table with your family. When you're using it in your business, you really want to frame them and have an outcome and a so what in your story so that it has an end goal. Where is it going to take that person, your audience member who's listening, so that they understand that you're the person that they should be working with next. So it was so helpful. But yeah, there's so many different ways you can use it. I think so for people who are thinking of using speaking for business, other ways it can help you put together your signature presentation with like less brain power. It can help you pull out like what are the most valuable things I teach. It can help you better understand the pain points of your audience and your client. I love that one. Where I'm like, okay, what are the things that this person is struggling with the most, right? I think that because I feel like that was something when we worked with people before AI came along that a lot of people struggled with. They knew how to talk about what they did, but they struggled to express what were the things that how their client might say it to them or frame it or be thinking about it. And so I love that AI can really help you dig into those parts. And again, save you a lot of like mental load, building offers. Like I was doing that last week. I was asking it to like, what would it include in some offers? I have noticed though, it really undervalues the price of what it tells you should charge. It's way too low. So if you're using it to help you build offers, but the elements of what it's saying that could be included were pretty good. They were like on like kind of like hitting the nail on the head in terms of what we had already discussed when we were talking about our Impact Maker program. So I thought that was really cool. It just like reaffirmed we were on the right track because it was like saying exactly the same thing as what we had already talked about and put to paper. Just its pricing is way off. It doesn't know the value of everything you offer, right? So there's and I feel like more and more people are going to be implementing it and using it. You were just talking about yesterday about your client that you're coaching who put together like a whole business plan using it. So
not even kidding. Like it's crazy. It's crazy to think I'm reaching for it. It's crazy to think that someone can come up with this business plan in the matter of like, I don't know how long it took, but maybe like an hour, right?
Yeah.
Not even. Like this is, and it's double-sided, by the way, people. So this is like a full-on business and marketing plan on how to launch a new product in their business. And so just think how I actually do want to address that. So my business coach on the Q&A calls, what he does, and I'm fascinated by it, is he always says, don't ask the how-to questions, go to AI. And I want to really drive that home for people who are listening is AI is at a point that it can answer a lot of your how-to questions, but it cannot make decisions for you. And it cannot do all of the work for you. There are some that it can definitely complete, like completing your slides, outlining your talk. But obviously, like, I mean, you can even use it to clone yourself and do the talk, but that kind of loses the magic of it, right?
Yeah.
So there's still work that you need to do and you have to make decisions, but all of your how-to questions are literally at your fingertips right now. I can pull up my phone and ask it just about any how-to questions, from what to cook tonight to how should I promote my business. And it's going to give me a plethora of ideas with as much detail as I ask it. So think just how you can leverage that for yourself right now, no matter what level of business you're in, whether you haven't started and you have an idea, or you already started, you're making 100K or a million or 7 million, right? Is you can simply really shrink the amount of time it takes you to learn how to do something. And so even as simple as a lot of you read, I read too. I love reading. To me, that's an integral part of my growth is I read every single day, and I read something to grow my mind, and I read something to entertain myself. So on both sides. And when I read something to grow my mind, I'm also very conscious that if I needed an answer now and it's a how to book, it would be way faster to go to ChatGPT and literally ask the summary of the book I'm reading, the
Mm-hmm.
biggest takeaways. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that. And that would save me, what is it, 5 to 6 hours of reading the book?
Yeah.
And so, really, really start breaking down the activities that you're doing every single day for yourself and how you can minimize the amount of time that you are spending on it. Man, I know, like, so Kim has a daughter who is a teenager, and I can't imagine how different the life is going to look for her. They
Mm-hmm.
have answers at the fastest way. Like, I grew up where you had to go to the library and you pulled out a drawer and you had the catalog and you had to go through the catalog to find the book.
Uh-huh.
And you had to memorize it because you couldn't take this card with you. You had to memorize it or write it down on a piece of paper, put it back, then go find the aisle, then go find the level, then go find the book. And only then you're like, okay, yeah. And then you look through the book and you're like, oh, that's not what I was looking for. Put it back, go back to the catalog, right? Like, I grew up in such a different time where everything was time consuming. And so
Mm-hmm.
the learning curve of learning any skill, never mind starting a business, that was years. Like, think about some of the biggest organizations even right now. It took them decades to get here. I
Yeah.
feel like now it's going to be days, weeks,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
Yeah.
hours, depending on how simple the business model is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
kids can start a business on YouTube within like a day with their cell phone and the tripod
Yeah.
and make money.
Absolutely. It's interesting though. I was just thinking before we jumped on about how there's so many tools, and most people, they get really stuck on the how to. They think the how to is like what's in their way, or like not understanding how to do the strategy, but it's actually not it. At the end of the day, it's the mindset, it's the making the decision, just like you were saying your coach said, right? So yes, AI can be a tool that we can continue to use and grow and do things faster. But the biggest obstacle so many people are still going to face is just their own fear, right? And that's something AI can't do it for you. But I mean, lots of people are using it as their therapist now. So,
Yeah, you
but
really
you
do.
really, at the end of the day, it's about like just making a decision and like pulling the trigger to, whether it's taking your website live. I just had that conversation with someone a few days ago and I was like, well, why haven't you done it yet? And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, what's the date? What's the go live date? Put the website on the internet. It's not like people are all of a sudden going to just be pounding down your door. But I think that's how our brain really does this all or nothing kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to launch something and you're going to change it like 100 times. It's fine, So that's the one thing I think AI, we still, it's a tool, but it's not going to do that for us. So you still have to just be committed and, sometimes borrow some confidence. I tell my daughter all the time, she
Yeah.
can just borrow my confidence until she feels it for herself. And looping back, because while you were talking, Kat, it was so funny. So my daughter homeschools, she's 13. And we were working on math yesterday and she was like, when am I ever going to need this? And I'm like, well, you're going to need it until you're done high school because you have to take all your math classes. I was like, but after that, it depends. Like if you go into STEM, yeah, probably a lot of it you're not going to use in your day-to-day life. And she's like, well, I'm just going to take over your business, so it won't matter. So I guess that could be our succession plan, Kat. My daughter's going to take over. So
And that's something that I think is very interesting as well. Is our education system is very archaic now too,
mm-hmm.
and so I am curious to see how that is going to change and shift because ultimately there's so many AI tools now that just gives you the answer. So is it actually relevant for you to know the process?
Of how to do it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Unless we just shift the school structure and the children have an ability to uncover their passion and their abilities at a young age so they can choose the stream. And then they need to understand the process and the how to. And then everything else kind of shifts from there because then other things become not irrelevant because you still needed to develop the brain and the mind and then abilities to just troubleshoot and, live.
Yeah.
day to day, but just becomes less important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of like some of the formulas and theories that I had to memorize and learn and understand. And to this day, the only time I ever used any of it is when I was flipping drywall on the walls and I had to figure out how to calculate an angle the drywall I have to cut off. But it wasn't even a formula. It was the matter of having an ability to figure out how to measure it in the fastest
Mm-hmm.
way
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, totally.
Besides
Yeah,
that, never have
I
I
know.
ever.
Percentages was like the most useful math skill I got from school. A lot of people, and working in retail for many years, I came to know how many people don't know how to do percentages in their head. So I was constantly having to figure out sale amounts for people. So,
But now a lot of the times,
oh, you just
we're
like
just
pull it
learn how
yourself.
to use calculators,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Instead of so it just
Totally.
again,
That was
some of it was
pre-calculator.
useful for a short period of
Yeah.
time, and I guess
Before
we don't
everyone
know
had
what we
phones
don't
in their
know.
hand. Now it's so easy. Everything's right there. So, yes, but looping back to AI. So, I feel like more and more we're going to see people talking about it. It's going to be used and implemented. There's so many. I mean, I feel like the easiest place to start is even just helping with your content creation and
Yeah.
content repurposing, right? Our team uses it to take our videos and turn them into blog posts, so that we don't have to sit there and think about what's an idea, what should we say, let's write it out. Like, we're already talking about it and we just use AI to turn it into a nice keyword rich post that goes on our website without us having to do extra work. So I feel like that's probably one of the easiest ways to start using it. But then in relation to being a speaker, you could use it to help develop your presentations, make your slides. Like, you don't have to sit there and click, 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 click to do all your slides anymore. There's so many amazing ways that you could be implementing it to save time. It is something we're not going to, I think, outwardly teach this per se to the public, but we will be teaching it in our Impact Makers program that is launching in April. So for the people that are working with us within that container, we will be talking quite a bit about using AI and sharing the prompts we're using and teaching all the new ways we're learning and implementing it into our business, because that's kind of what we tend to do in our programs, in our more intensive programs, is just like, here's everything. This is what we're doing right now. Here's how it's working.
Mm-hmm.
We're very open about whether a strategy is working for us, how we would do it differently, if we're going to use it again. So people really get behind the scenes information when they're working with us in that container. And I'm really excited to be launching that after our boot camp. So among other things, of course. But I think we were talking about starting with like different ways to get stages. So especially podcasts, such an untapped resource. So borrowing an audience, the easiest way to scale your business. So but yeah, I just thought it'd be really fun to talk about AI today, because we use it a lot and we don't talk about it in our content, in our front facing stuff, but we have conversations about it constantly behind the scenes. We're really good at that. Hey, Kat, you and I have conversations about so many things. There's so many things we could be teaching out into the world, but we're just like chatting to each other. So we'll try and do that more.
So I'm actually curious because I saw that conversation happening yesterday in one of the groups I'm a part of, and someone posted and they said they feel guilty using AI because they feel like it's cheating.
Interesting. I don't feel that way, because in my mind, it's a tool that enhances what I already know and do. Like, I always start with something of my own. I guess if you were using it for everything, and I do feel like I see some companies where I'm like, oh, that's straight up all AI. Like, none of that is an original thought. Like, you can just kind of tell sometimes in the cadence of it. But yeah, I don't think I feel that way. I do. And I also think, we're talking about like AI taking over jobs, but I think that forces us into innovation.
Yeah.
It forces us into finding different ways to do things and do business, and it creates new types of jobs. So I don't feel guilty about that. But yeah, I could see how some people, I think for me, more so what's sometimes in the back of my mind is I do know that it's a resource intensive tool, right? Like, there is definitely an impact that way. And so I'm mindful of that, and I do pay attention. Like, I would really love to see these companies like doing something. It's like, cool, they've made a tool. if we know it takes like a lot of water or electricity, what can they do to offset that?
Yeah.
I think that's something important moving forward. And also just like the morality of it. Like, are they using it for nefarious means? But I feel like that would be a whole other conversation.
They do remember the ChatGPT came out, it was a whole scandal because they didn't have any safety blogs there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like there's always that, right?
Yeah.
I personally look at AI as multiplication. So how do I multiply myself without having the investment money or seed money, right, for our business? And so, as an example, a lot of brick and mortar businesses or construction businesses, when they're launching, they're essentially going to get a loan for one piece of equipment. And they keep getting loans with the security being equipment and contracts. So by the logic of people thinking AI is cheating, that would also be cheating. But that's just how business work, because otherwise you could never grow because you wouldn't have any assets. You would just have liabilities in your business.
Right.
And so I look at AI as an ability to multiply yourself and what it is that you do and what you believe in without having to essentially invest a huge chunk amount of money. And so that's exactly how I use it too, because the first thing about AI to understand is, yeah, it can give you information. It can spit out a ton of it. It has all the how-tos and information resources. It can search internet really quickly and gather information in a very concise way. And don't mistake it for the information being correct. So again, all it does information gathering. It just does it faster than what I could do it.
Yeah.
So again, it still circles back to, you still have to make decisions on which pieces of that information you're going to utilize.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of the times people try very, very different things, right down to lead generation, where they're like, give me 20 dentists in my area and their contact information. And you betcha you'll get it. But I guarantee that a huge percentage of it is going to be fake. It's not even real information. ChatGPT just gave you what you wanted to see.
Yeah, totally.
It generated this fictional.
Yeah, I've noticed that before. Creating content, it will create fictional testimonials and insert them into the post. I'm like, I did not give you that testimonial.
Be very, very careful of just copy pasting things. Because you still need to be that filter of authenticity, as well as, all the legal things and correct information before you just post it online. Like, I can't emphasize how important that is. I see so many people blindly copy pasting it, and you can tell. You can tell ChatGPT uses the same keywords, the M dash, and I know some people use M dashes, but there's not that many of you.
So controversial.
Like, you can tell because it doesn't come through authentically. It doesn't come through as yourself. Like, even I read some of my posts that I used AI for, and I was like, people know. They know, right? So that's something to understand too, is you can train eventually your AI, whether you use ChatGPT or a different one, to sound more like you. And still, it has to be you at the core of it. You can't just take blindly information provided to you and copy paste it. Because at the end of the day, you can't even replicate it, and you're going to sound exactly like everybody else. Right? So don't forget that at the core of your business is developing yourself. So really understanding who you are and who you are authentically, and being comfortable with that. Because the more you're using AI tool, the more you dehumanitize yourself. Dehumanitizing. There you go. Dehumanitizing what it is that you're doing and putting out there. So make sure that you spend time on yourself first, and then you layer it over everything that you get from AI. People want to see you. Information is information, but they want to see you. That what makes your business unique is you and how you look at the problems and solve them.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely.
That's a hard word. Dehumanitizing.
I'll have to dehumanize. That's why dehumanize. That's the way we would say it. It's a big word.
Wasn't even correct.
I think we made up a word, dehumanitize.
AI version.
Anyway, So that's our thoughts on AI. So yeah, it's interesting. And actually going back to what you just said in the making it more human, I often find when I'm creating posts, I have to go back and say, hey, that's like a good start. Now let's make it more authentic and less like marketing lingo. You know what I mean? To make it actually sound like it came from me instead of a very glossed over, it was written by a big corporation kind of content. So, and that's even after doing like hours of training it because I've used it so much at this point. So yeah, absolutely. I don't think you can take the human out of it. But it is such a powerful tool that I think more and more people will implement in their business. So yeah, I think that's good for today. Let's see. We've been going for 25 minutes. We've been talking, Kat. Oh my gosh. No wonder we have the longest phone call.
Topic.
So if you were here with us live, thank you so much for joining us. Drop us a comment. And
let us know what you think about using it.
Yeah.
Have you been
using it in your business? Yeah, exactly. So, and for those of you, I feel like we might have had some people that are joining us at our boot camp next week. So we will see you there. We can't wait. We'll be back live next Thursday. Sometimes 8 a.m., sometimes not, if Kat's not in the mood to get live yet. So, but we're usually here Thursdays and you can catch us on the replay. So thanks for joining us and we'll see you next time.